Hello, you are watching the Supply Chain Digital Show, brought to you by Supply Chain Digital Magazine, Procurement Magazine, and BizClick Media Group. My name is Sean Ashcroft. I'm Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Digital. Now in the show, we bring you all the latest news, views, and opinions and analysis from the world of supply chain and procurement every 2 weeks, right here on LinkedIn, as well as on YouTube and other digital platforms. Now, joining us as usual is Procurement Magazine editor, Georgia Wilson. Hey, Georgia.
How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm very well, thanks. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks.
Glad to hear it. Now, a quick reminder at this point for all of you watching is please do say hello by posting in the comments section, just underneath the show. And do vote also in our LinkedIn poll. On which note, Georgia, what is our poll this week?
Yeah, so this week's poll is, when will we see an end to supply chain disruption? And the options were by the end of 2022, by the end of 2023, within 3 years, or longer than 3 years.
That's the sort of $50 billion question, isn't it, really?
Yeah, I think whoever has the answer to that, they're gonna be quids-in.
So anyway, so we'll have a look at the results of that a little bit later on. Who knows how that one's going to go, really. You need about 15 crystal balls to even get near it, I think. But it'd be interesting to see what people are saying anyway, because I know that there's been a lot of comment around that on the poll. So maybe we'll take a look at some of those comments later on. So we'll look at the poll a little bit later, but why don't we have a look at news first? Shall I go first?
Cool.
Shall I go first, Georgia?
Yeah. Sounds good.
Okay, so my first piece is a story I did a week or so ago, and it's another report from Accenture, and it's about how adopting AI at scale is the secret to making a difference in the supply chain. Accenture identified a number of common problems that stop organizations adopting AI at scale. And these were that they adopt AI into one business function instead of across the enterprise. The second is that they haven't got the right talent in place to be able to scale up AI across the enterprise. And also that they're not really tapping in to their vendor ecosystem in the ways that they might, because there's huge resources of skill and knowledge and experience in the supply chain, and to be able to draw on that can obviously help with your own internal digital transformation. Now, the solutions that they proposed were to adopt cloud-based solutions so that you're leveraging huge computational power and server capacity, which is what you need if you are rolling out a digital transformation across an entire enterprise. Also upskilling, reskilling. We're hearing this again and again across every aspect of business. And it's just going to become more important, I think. And also engaging vendors, as we mentioned before, but to specifically learn of their own AI scaling experiences, because most of them have undergone digital transformations of their own. So that was my first story. And my second is a piece about third-party and fourth-party logistics providers. This is a Capgemini interview I actually did with Ashley Norton, who is supply director of Capgemini, the IT and services consulting multinational company. Now, I interviewed Ashley at the last Procurement and Supply Chain live show just after his keynote. And actually, before I go any further, maybe I should just quickly define the difference between third-party and fourth-party logistic providers, just for those who aren't logistics experts. So a 3PL provider manages all aspects of fulfillment, from warehousing to shipping, whereas a fourth-party logistics provider actually manages the third-party logistics provider on behalf of the customer, and they might also add in some other logistics functions on top of that as well. But Ashley Norton of Capgemini was telling us just how important these logistics providers are for organizations going forward, because with all the disruptions that we've had in supply chain, they've often got a jump start on when these disruptions are going to happen and where they're going to happen. And also, Ashley was saying that businesses really need to work with these logistic providers closely to also understand how those companies' digital transformations can add value to their own operation, a point that we looked at in the previous news story. And finally, he also said logistics companies themselves need to collaborate with one another to improve efficiency, particularly when it comes down to delivery, because you have a lot of stuff called, you have a lot of empty running in logistics, which is where return journeys, or typically haulage, lorries returning empty. If logistics providers can collaborate, then they can make sure that those empty lorries are full, even on a return journey. So anyway, that's my news, Georgia. What's been happening in the world of procurement recently?
Yeah, thanks, Sean. So you got some interesting articles there. So my first one is an insight piece that looked at spend management strategies. So according to Ivalua, the global software provider for spend and supplier management, organizations are going beyond sort of supplier management, and instead they are adopting a supplier engagement approach. So in particular, organizations are consistently prioritizing a holistic and integrated approach to their suppliers, to sort of drive value beyond just simply cost savings. So Ivalua outlined 5 key ways that an organization can benefit from sort of this more holistic approach to their supplier management, and those where that it can help to establish supply assurance and mitigate disruptions. It can build more resilient supply chains to withstand volatility. It can then also support growth plans, product innovation and entry into new markets, drive sustainability initiatives, particularly when it comes to reducing Scope 3 emissions. And finally, it can improve the accuracy and quality of supplier master data.
That's quite interesting. I mean, that in some ways is exactly what my first story was about, wasn't it? Companies looking to tap into their value chains for expertise and stuff. So what's your second story, Georgia?
Yes, my second one continues sort of with that sourcing theme, but it looks at the benefits of sourcing optimization technology in particular. So according to the software development company Kiova, the concept of sourcing optimization, it isn't new, but it's yet to sort of be seen as a mainstream solution. So the company sort of identified 3 key benefits of adopting this kind of technology when you're looking to conduct a digital transformation strategy in procurement. So the sort of 3 key benefits included sourcing optimization, to being one of the top solutions to deliver the highest return on investment. Then there was greater efficiencies and better distribution of time, resources. Automation can give back time to employees to work on more value-added tasks. And then there was scalability. So sourcing optimization solutions have more versatility to handle varying size of events.
Great. Well, thank you very much for that, Georgia. So moving on from news, we're going to have a quick ad break now, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back very soon.
Jason Fritsch. I'm Senior Vice President of Global Sales for Juniper Network's cloud segment. There are a few key elements that are common across most cloud provider customers, which they architect their networks to remove as much complexity as possible so they can scale them as quickly as possible. So they begin with the end in mind. partnering with vendors like Juniper to design, build, and deploy scalable networks that can be heavily automated and easily automated, so that it's not just what you build, but how it integrates into their operational model. Because one of their biggest advantages is the automation that they build, so that they can do more and scale quickly with less due to that automation.
The idea of supply chain constraints is something that has always been part of my working world, but this is the first time it's front page news. Mitch Haynes, I'm the Vice President of Supply Chain Planning and Fulfillment at Juniper. The role we see ourselves trying to play is finding that true signal of data, making sure that it's consistent and complete and transmitted across the entire supply network. It's a corporate imperative that we have to invest and understand and protect our supply chains.
What's also evolving around the cloud customer experience is ease of doing business. So it's not just about delivering features and high scale and high performance, but how we transact and how we deliver our own supply chain and our portfolio in ways that our customers can be comfortable with, so that we can scale with them. Their experience with Juniper is not just the technology that we deliver, but the business engagement and the business processes that support that, to make that as easy as possible.
There's probably going to be a much greater appreciation for the sharing and the transparency of data through the multiple partners throughout the supply chain. And so that's what I think is going to be probably the biggest takeaway.
Welcome back. Still to come, we have the results of our poll, and we'll also be taking a look at the latest issues of Supply Chain Digital and Procurement magazines. But first, it's my pleasure to introduce our special guest today, who is Olivia Montgomery. Now, Olivia is Associate Principal Supply Chain Analyst at Software Advice, which is a subsidiary of Gartner. So, beg your pardon. There, Olivia produces reports and insights on small business project management, supply chain trends, and technology strategies. Welcome, Olivia.
Hey guys, thanks so much for having me.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. Thank you for your time. How are you today?
I am doing well. How about y'all?
Yeah, we're all good. We're all good. Where are you speaking from today, Olivia?
I am based in Austin, Texas, and I'm here because we do have a lot of software and manufacturing that happens in Texas, specifically in Austin. So here with a lot of our software vendors.
Okay, that's great. And so I wonder if you could maybe open, Olivia, just by telling us a little bit more about Software Advice, your role there, what you do, and who your customers are.
Yeah, absolutely. So Software Advice works to match small and mid-sized businesses with the right software for their business needs. So we have advisors that work one-on-one with whoever is in charge of the software buying process at their company, getting to know what they're dealing with, what they already have in place, and help them decide what the best software is to take their business to the next level. My role as a research analyst is I focus on, as you said, IT project management and supply chain management. I do market research, survey business leaders, and come up with research reports that provide insights for small business leaders so they can succeed and grow. And I'm really proud to be, on this team. We try to be as ridiculously helpful as possible. And yeah, I very, very much enjoy what I do. That's
great. Well, it's always good to enjoy what you do, isn't it? So you recently produced a report into sustainability at small to medium-sized retail businesses, which is actually how I came across you in the first place. I wondered if you could share with us the headline findings from that particular report, Olivia.
Yeah, absolutely. So sustainability is a topic that I've covered for a few years now. And for this report, I took a deep dive into the reverse logistics processes and how companies either are or aren't incorporating sustainability efforts into them. I surveyed 320 supply chain managers for this report that do work for retail, small and mid-sized businesses. And I really wanted to make sure that I was talking to the ones who are designing and executing the reverse logistics processes. And the findings we have that 89% of businesses are taking sustainability seriously, and they've incorporated a sustainability lens when they're designing their reverse logistics processes, which is fantastic. But we did find that only 54% of businesses report disposing of returned products responsibly. So we are seeing a bit of room for improvement there, especially when you're focusing on not just cost savings and operational efficiency, but sustainability, which is what consumers are really starting to prioritize more than they ever have before. And all indications say that, Gen Z and the younger generations are just going to continue driving the importance of sustainability and being eco-friendly. And as everyone is shopping online more and returning products more, it's just going to keep being quite a bit of an issue. So yeah, we also found that supply chain managers are in the key position to be able to help their businesses improve all their entire sustainability efforts, but specifically for their reverse logistics processes. So I did come up with a handful of recommendations and focuses that business leaders and supply chain managers and everyone across the logistics process can hopefully find helpful based on the survey.
Could you maybe share one or two of those with us, Olivia? A couple of those solutions?
Absolutely. So one of the first ones you can do is try to design your processes to discourage returns in the first place. There's things that you can use thoughtful packaging when throughout every step, having your suppliers use thoughtful packaging, and when you ship out of your warehouse or your store, that prevents breakage, which is a huge result. And when the broken items are returned, they tend to be unsalvageable, and those are the ones that can often be sent to landfill or unfortunately burned, which is part of that not so responsibly disposing of materials that I talked about a moment ago. Another step that goes with George's article about procurement and taking a more holistic approach, that's another really good step to think about sustainability in those efforts. Ask your vendors, your suppliers, what are they doing, for sustainability? And as you take that holistic approach, like work together, share ideas and come up with stuff together to not only, like I said, reduce costs, improve efficiency, but also, like I said, be, a little more friendly to our environment.
Sure. And like you say, protecting reputational damage against your brand is also becoming possibly the biggest single driving factor in businesses' drives to become more sustainable, isn't it?
Absolutely. And then we actually found a bit of a disconnect or maybe a misalignment between the messaging that does go out and what a company specifically is doing. So we did find that 46% of our supply chain managers said that the communication that they see their business sending out doesn't match up, doesn't align with what is actually happening. So there's this misalignment between the back and the front office. And a big recommendation I have is to partner with your marketing and even sales and customer service teams to ensure that everyone knows what you're working on, so that those messages are accurate. We have, new terms that have come up in the past decade or so of greenwashing, and those can severely impact your reputation, and especially as you're trying to attract the newer, younger customers who are exceptionally interested in sustainability. Sometimes you only get one shot. So you want to make sure that your messaging is honest and transparent, and you're talking to your customers about what you're doing to, be responsible people on the planet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you're a research analyst, Olivia. You must just be across so much information and data. And you've probably got a pretty good idea, more than most people, what kind of challenges lie ahead for supply chain, maybe in the next 5 years. So I was just wondering, what do you see as being the next big challenges for supply chain?
Yeah, so I think taking sustainability as a pretty big priority is already a shift that we're seeing, that's only happened in the past few years, and it's just going to be exponentially more important. So I really do hope that businesses start reviewing and coming up with a sustainability strategy. It's going to be important to, like I said, attract and retain new customers, because our younger generations have very different expectations from their businesses that they're giving their money to. And also, we're seeing this trend of moving supply chain operations and networks closer to shore. And, COVID has changed the world. The pandemic has changed the world. We have a war that's changing the world, and companies are finding we need to be more resilient. And our ports and our infrastructure maybe aren't designed for quite the level of trade that we have going on. So as we see businesses moving operations, near shoring, I've also heard friend shoring, that as businesses are thinking about where their suppliers are located and where their networks are getting built out, that's a really good opportunity to think more sustainable. Moving to new suppliers and partners and networks that also focus on sustainability is only going to help your efforts, and again, help protect your reputation and the future of your business. So I definitely agree that nearshoring is going to be continuing to drive. The rate of globalization and open trade that we've had, it is already slowed down, and I think it's going to continue that way. But it's an excellent opportunity to, reinvest in, like Georgia said, a more holistic procurement. You're improving your reverse logistics, pretty much end to end, building a more resilient supply chain that's sustainable and friendlier for the earth.
And let's not even think about China invading Taiwan and upsetting 60% of the world's microprocessor production.
Yes, absolutely. We're seeing
that's all the world needs.
Yeah, it's happening in all sorts of little areas. We're seeing it with food people weren't expecting. With the war, we weren't expecting food to be quite impacted. Nobody saw that coming in 2020. Smart chips we might have seen coming, and we can move a little. We have time to move on that, but we also don't know what the next area that's going to be hit. And like I said, a lot of it is to our world infrastructure. We're learning that our cargo ships are much larger than they were, and they're continuing every order for new cargo ship I've seen. They're even bigger, but a lot of our ports and waterways are the same size.
Yes.
So we're seeing there's a taste for more open trade, more globalization, but the people in power, it's probably not going to align real well.
No, sadly, Olivia, that's all we've got time for today. But thank you ever so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate
interesting listening to your insights. So thank you very much, Olivia. Now we're going to have a quick look at what's being said in our comments section in the show. And as usual, we have a good selection of people from across the globe. We have Badre from Morocco, and also Anmar from Yemen. Hello, Anmar. We also have Yoki from Indonesia and Karen from South Africa. And so hello to you all, and thank you ever so much for joining us and for voting in our poll. So next up, we're going to take a look at some of our magazine features. So I'll kick this off, Georgia. Now, the latest issue of Supply Chain Digital is the August issue, and which came out this week. And the first feature I'm going to look at is one called, it's about retail turning to technology to increase its agility. Seem to talk about retail probably more than any other area these days, because so much is happening so quickly. It's changed dramatically since the onset of the pandemic. So retail now is looking to move inventory sort of less frequently and over shorter distances. So it's about micro fulfillment. So gone are the days of these overarching supply chains with massive distribution centers and just in time procurement inventory models. What they're looking to do now is micro fulfill, which is to meet demand on a local basis. Of course, for that, you need tons of technology. Now, I spoke to Nikki Baird, who's Vice President of Strategy at Aptos, which is a retail management software specialist. Now, Nikki was saying that a big blind spot for today's retailers is being able to match the products they have in store with local demand. They want to try and marry those two things as closely as possible. And they want the ability also to transfer demand from online to in-store during peak season, like Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, that kind of thing. So because warehouse space is at such a premium these days, large retail multinationals are increasingly looking to use their stores, their shop fronts for storage, because of course they do have a storage capacity at the back of shop, but also the shelves themselves is storage space. So that's what they're looking to do now. They're looking to turn stores into warehouses. And I also spoke to Lila Dorato as part in the course of this feature, and Lila is a director of solutions engineering at MuleSoft, which is an integration software company. And Lila said that digitalization is the key to helping retailers put themselves at the heart of growth, and digitalization really is at the key of virtually everything these days, isn't it, Georgia?
Yeah, definitely. It seems to be a key trend. There's not many sort of articles or anything these days that you can read that doesn't sort of mention digitalization or working smarter.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'll look at one more piece from the August issue of Supply Chain before we move on to procurement, Georgia. So the second piece was a feature on rail freight. Rail freight is going to be absolutely pivotal if businesses are going to hit their net zero targets, because we all know about scope 3 emissions in supply chain and how much of total emissions that counts for, typically around about 80%. Now, Ken Sherman, who is president of IntelliTrans, which is a US-based supply chain software solution provider, told me that rail is actually 75% more environmentally friendly than road haulage. So 75% fewer carbon emissions by rail than by road. But he said the problem is too many companies are wedded to road transport because it's a little bit more flexible than rail. It's not being on rails and all. It's also got greater reach, and it's cheaper. So getting companies to move away from roads to rail is going to be a real challenge. And one of the things that needs to happen is that import-export hubs, ports and the like, they need to increase their rail links to really make a difference here. So that's my pieces from the August issue. Georgia, what are you sharing with us from your latest issue of procurement?
Yeah, so sort of sticking with the sustainability theme, mine's from our sustainability section of the procurement magazine. So I spoke with the CEO and co-founder of HICX and the head of digital innovation at TradeShift to discuss the fundamentals of responsible sourcing. So speaking with the executives, we looked at how the pandemic has sort of cast a damning spotlight on what happens when you build supply chains hardwired for cost savings and efficiency gains. And that if you look at the disruption that's taken place over the past 2 years, the foundations of responsible sourcing and supply chain resilience are very closely related. So continuing through the article, we then look at 4 key areas when it comes to responsible sourcing. So we looked at what makes responsible sourcing fundamental to procurement and supply chain. how can organizations be more responsible in their sourcing, what has been driving the demand for more responsible sourcing, and then what is the best approach when looking to be more sustainable within those operations.
Yes, sourcing, procurement is just such an important area for sustainability, isn't it? And carbon emissions.
Definitely.
So, sorry, Georgia, you were saying?
No, you're fine. I was just going to say it's a central element for a lot of the operations that then work around it.
So those are our magazines. Do take a look at them. They're great products. Always a lot to read, a lot of insight. So it's poll time. Let's take a look at those results, shall we, Georgia? First of all, maybe just remind us what the question was.
Yeah, so the question was, when will we see an end to supply chain disruption?
And drum roll, let's have a look. So I'll work my way up. So 5% people are saying by the end of 2022, no surprise there. That must be eternal optimists, that 5%. Then by the end of 2023, 29%. Longer than 3 years, 32%. Then within 3 years, 34%. So really, virtually everybody thinks it's going to be at least a year, but it could be 3 or more years. I believe we've had some lively comments, Georgia, on the poll.
Yeah, we've had some, like you say, some interesting and sort of thought-provoking comments from the guys that participated in the poll. One from Mark Bitch, which I'm hoping I'm not butchering his name, from Transwest Automotive Group, and he commented saying that we are quickly approaching what will likely be a definitive fork in the road. He was saying that do we head back down the path of China Communist Party led globalization, or do we pursue a more isolated path with more mostly bilateral trade agreements with allied nations and those nations that are closer to home? So it's definitely disruption has definitely brought a lot of these big topics into the forefront.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? It's absolutely huge. And actually, in response to that comment you've just read us, Georgia, we have another follower, Philip Onga. I'm definitely butchered that name. And he says that we just have to accept that in today's world, geopolitical allies come and go. And he's based in Austria. And he said, in his lifetime, he's seen the rise and fall of the Iron Curtain. He's seen Austria join the EU and enjoy, a sizable economic upturn. And now there's a war not that far away from Austria's borders that not many people saw coming a year ago. So that's a fair point, because, nobody can really know what's coming next. Something Olivia mentioned, China, Taiwan, who knows what's going to happen on that front. So it's nobody really knows is the short answer. I guess you just hope that the disruptions aren't going to be as entrenched and as serious as they have been over the last 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's always going to be sort of some level of disruption, but hopefully the high levels that we've had over the last couple of years will start to slow down, and we'll just have the sort of expected disruption that you get. Well,
one thing we hope isn't going to be disrupted, I'm sure it won't be, is our next procurement and supply chain show in London. Now this is going to be a new look for us, actually. We're going for a hybrid event. That's not new, we've done that before. But what we're doing this time is we're splitting the show into 2 zones. So we're going to have a supply chain live and procurement live zones to create like an expo style experience. And if you've not experienced a BizClick Media Group show before, you are missing out, because they attract a really glittering lineup of top industry professionals offering insight, comment on the issues, problems and challenges of the day across supply chain, procurement, logistics, sustainability, everything really. Let's have a look at the last show just to remind us.
Welcome to day one of Procurement and Supply Chain Live.
I hope you will enjoy the session this morning.
Asking people to do absolutely everything is just not possible.
Harvard picked it up, and it's Harvard's first book ever on procurement.
I don't think there is a provider out there who can provide best of breed in all of these different aspects.
All procuring with government is complex.
Coming here to attend a great conferences, which were very, very interesting. I'm so thrilled to be here in person at Supply Chain and Procurement Live with BizClick Media.
So there we are, Georgia.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. So just as a reminder, Procurement and Supply Chain Live London 2022 will be held at London's QE2 Centre from the 12th to the 13th of October. And if you take a look in the comments below, then you can find a link to book tickets.
Right, so folks, I'm afraid that's all we've got time for this episode. Hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you ever so much for interacting with us, whether that was through taking part in the poll or just watching the show. And remember that this is available to watch on demand if you'd like to view it again, or share it with colleagues, anyone you know who's interested in supply chain and procurement. So a big thank you to our special guest, Olivia Montgomery of Software Advice. Thank you also to Ernie and the rest of the video production team, and to Justin and the design team for the great looking magazines, and to Kaylee and the marketing team. But before we go, we'd just like to say a special thank you and wish Georgia good luck, because Georgia, you're off for a short while. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. So me and my partner are expecting our first child. So yeah, I'm gonna be off for a little while.
That's fantastic. When's the due date then, Georgia?
Not long now. It's the 25th of August.
So it's been a long, hot summer for you.
Yeah, it really has.
Well, we're going to miss you, Georgia, and we wish you all the very best.
Thank you.
And actually stepping in to Georgia's shoes, we have one of our esteemed colleagues, Ilkan Osavim. Please tell me I've pronounced your name right, Ilkan.
Hi there, Sean. Hi, Georgia. Yeah, that was actually pretty good. 99% accuracy.
So, Ilkan, I understand you're going to be taking over from Georgia.
That's what I understand too, and I am looking forward to it. And congratulations again, Georgia. I hope I can, do it justice while you're away, and try and steer it, at least, follow Sean's lead on this. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we're looking forward to having you aboard, Ilkan. Right, well, thank you very much, and good luck again, Georgia. And this has been a BizClick Media Group production, and we're going to take a little break for the summer, but we shall see you again in the autumn. Bye.